Now that school is back in session, it's also time for colds and flus. We're also hearing a lot on social media about children missing classes due to illness. Well, we wanted a healthy and holistic balance to this conversation. And as with everything, health starts with family at home. We wanted to cut through all the political science and connect with a health expert to learn more about healthy homes, healthy families, and what is the root cause for the number of sick children being reported right now. For this, Josee Bosgra of Roots and Fruits Wellness joins us to shed some light on family health. Josee, welcome to Bridge City News.
Thanks so much for having me.
Josee, we're hearing on social media that there is an increased number of sick children getting into hospitals right now. I got to ask you, are you hearing the same thing from moms and dads that you know?
Yes and no. I would say yes. It does seem to appear that there are more kids sick than usual this year, and and that is true. I think in part that is due to the fact that a lot of kids weren't exposed to viral infections in the past few years. They're wearing masks, which can weaken the immune system. Largely, yeah, isolated, not enjoying like the typical things they do. So maybe like feeling a little down, and that all contributes to their overall health. So, yes, I do think there is a larger amount, but I also think it's really normal at this time of year. There's always kind of an uptick in illnesses. The days are shorter. We're not getting as much sunlight. And when we are, we're like totally bundled up. So our skin isn't absorbing the vitamin D, which affects our immune system. What else? We're typically more sedentary, so we're not sweating as much. Our kids aren't like running around outside as much. The other interesting thing is most of the sugary holidays, all in these winter months, and excess sugar can affect our immune system. And so, with the kind of usual uptick plus the reality of the effects of COVID on these kids, yes, I think there is more than usual.
Gotcha. I think that for me personally, you mentioned something really important. It's the vitamin D from the sun. And we'll get into that that's probably part of the toolbox for parents. But do you think that there's something that parents can do around the house to limit exposure to maybe bacteria and viruses?
Yeah, there are definitely ways to support your children and your family's immune system, yours too. And we can talk about this, but I think the first thing to mention is I think we got to kind of bust through the fear of getting sick. Getting sick is actually good for us. Of course, in moderation. If we're getting sick like every few weeks, there's probably something up. But being exposed to viruses is good to build our kids' immune systems. And not every virus they're exposed to is going to give them symptoms. But when it does, I think we have to just embrace that. I think because of COVID, our response has been, oh my gosh, a symptom. I got to run and get a test kit. Something's wrong. But actually, your body's working if you're sick, right? Your immune system's fighting and you're building antibodies. And so, not to focus so much on like, I don't want to get sick. I don't want to get my kids sick. Just to kind of accept it as a good thing. But of course, there are things we can do to prevent illness. It's kind of basic, like rest, hydration, good food. Um, I think one huge factor for the whole family is gut health. Over 70% of the immune system is housed in the human gut. And so when an individual's gut is imbalanced or a mess, so to speak, they're probably going to get sick when exposed to something. And so you can do that with your kids. I mean, eating a wholesome diet is a great place to start. You don't need all the fancy supplements and regimes for your kids to have a healthy gut. A lot of it is just diet. In terms of supplements, probiotics, that's one thing for the whole family that can help keep your gut healthy and keep your immune system a little stronger. A good quality probiotic to keep the bacteria in your gut balanced. Yeah, I'm sure there's so much more I could say, but I'll leave it there.
Oh, there's so much information, and I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with you. I think that just like our muscle system and our skeletal system, the immune system is also one of those parts of the body that, in my opinion, we can probably either disregard or enhance. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so disregarding and enhancing are a great way to put it. I think of things a lot about food because I that's my scope is nutrition, and so disregarding or enhancing. I mean, every bite we take can either harm or heal our gut, which is really largely our immune system. And I think it's one of those things that's easy to forget about the impact of things that we do. So it's easy at Thanksgiving to like eat a little bit too much sugar, let our kids eat a little too much, and then Halloween is another one. Um, your kids can eat candy without it like totally destroying your immune system, but it's all in that moderation. And so, like you said, I think we have to regard it, not disregard it. We have to be aware of the effects of things on our immune system. Another big thing is how we're cleaning our home, the non-food items that we're consuming through our breath and on our skin at home, that affects our kids' immune systems. And all of this also affects our immune systems. We're obviously talking about kids, but this can be applied to adults as well. So, regarding your immune system, and your words would be also acknowledging that some disinfectant type cleaners can actually cause more harm than help. um, and so, of course, if you've got sickness in the house, you want to keep things clean. But how are you cleaning your house? Are you using things that are completely wiping out your bacteria? And good bacteria helps your immune system. It helps your gut health be in balance. And when that is in balance, then yeah, you're going to get sick more. And it's easy to disregard the immune system, especially in today's hyper sanitized day and age after the pandemic
Yeah.
years.
It's definitely a hyper sanitized situation that we find ourselves in. And as you were talking about the food, I was thinking about that old and apt saying of let food be thy medicine. That hasn't changed from however long ago, what, 1,500 years ago or 1,000 years ago that statement came up. Could you give us like a top 5 inexpensive food list that a parent could get for their children that would help them?
So you probably have a lot of the ingredients in your house already. That's kind of the beauty of healing with food is it's pretty basic. I mean, keep the bones that you had from your chicken last night and make some broth and let your kids sip on that throughout the day, whether they're sick or not. That's going to be great for them and for you. I mean, truthfully, I have a 5-month-old baby, and he drinks bone broth, and it's nourishing his gut, building his immune system, and we drink it too. And that's literally just from the bones from dinner. So I think that's super easy. So that would be number one. Lots of herbs and spices you might already have, like some anti-inflammatory ones, turmeric, ginger. You can like make really yummy drinks, elixirs we call them, which are like medicinal hot drinks, and you sweeten it with honey or maple syrup, and your kids will probably love it. It's sweet, it's delicious, and it has all these anti-inflammatory, gut healing stuff. So turmeric, ginger, cinnamon. Those are three that most people have in their pantry. Um, Thirdly, I would say like more in the herb section. Elderberries is a good thing to kind of have in your cabinet for this season. But again, you don't need to wait till they're sick to give it to them. So that's another good one. And then just like lots of fresh fruits and vegetables. And I get that times are hard with finances, so it can be tricky. But where you're able to buying organic, fresh fruits and vegetables is better because there's less like chemical toxicity that you're going to be taking in. Usually, a lot of our conventional vegetables and whatnot are depleted of minerals, depleted of vitamins. They're genetically modified. So even if someone's eating super healthy, they might still be super depleted, and that's going to show up in the immune system. So the fifth one I would say is just an abundance of like fresh fruits and vegetables. If you really want to go for it, seasonal ones and local ones would be great. And we have farms in the area you can go pick stuff up. Different stores that have local veggies. So yeah.
That's great. I know in our home, we've got the elderberry syrup, the olive leaf extract, minerals and vitamins. I realize that's not always practical for people, but growing up, I know we wasn't quite forced fed bone broth, but that was a staple in our parents' toolkit for surviving at home. Just quickly, we only have a few minutes left. I want to ask you about cleaners because what we put on our skin and whether we're using it to clean ourselves or cleaning our appliances or things around us, talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, most conventional disinfectant type of cleaners, as I said earlier, can actually just damage our immune systems more than we think. And more than our immune systems, it just damages our cells in general. The levels of toxicity that we're seeing in our bodies it's unsustainable. And so, um, wiping out all the good bacteria is not something we want to do. And there's ways to clean and disinfect without doing that. So I use a lot of like essential oil type cleaners. Locally here in Lethbridge, we have Purple Carrot, which is great because they have a huge refillery. So you could bring in your old Windex bottle, clean it out, and then make that switch. It's pretty cheap because you're refilling it in bulk to something that is made with like vinegar and essential oils. Not these like really heavy, harsh cleaners that give you a headache immediately. If you feel the effects of that, you got to wonder like, what's that doing deep down? So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but I would just say moving away from that. And one really good tip, because it's not always financially reasonable to just switch everything. When you run out of something, then go replace that one thing with something a little bit more natural. And then next time you run out of the next thing, then you just keep switching over and over.
Yeah, little bits at a time. And that's right. That old saying of you eat an elephant one piece at a time. And certainly people have to watch their budgets. But what price do we put on ourselves and our health? And where do we want to go with that? I feel like when one goes to the doctor, for example, we were talking about children having to go see MDs. We're looking for health, but in my opinion, the doctor has his computer program and is actually looking for dis-ease. I feel like we sometimes look for opposite things. Do you see that more families are maybe looking for alternatives to keep their families healthy?
Yeah, and if they're not already, they might have to soon because we have this Tylenol shortage, which has other implications that I've read about. But there there's going to be a point where people are going to look for alternatives, whether that's, oh, I'm realizing that this medication I'm giving my kid has long-term side effects and I don't want to do that. What are my options? So I think, yes, lots of people are. The COVID times were something that kind of drew people's attention to their health. And so we saw a lot more people interested in natural health. But yeah, and I think on the note of Tylenol, like there's lots of other great remedies that are way safer for babies, for infants, for kids, for yourself. Homeopathic remedies would be a great alternative to pharmaceuticals. They're generally really safe for even infants. So that's a great kind of part of your toolkit for your home is having a plethora of homeopathic remedies. There's kind of one out there for everything. So that's great. And then again, just nutrition. If you eat well, like health really does start in the kitchen. Exercise is really important. Sunshine is really important. All these things are really important. But if you're eating like garbage, chances are you're not gonna feel great, no matter what else you're doing.
Right. So one of the things that I've got to ask you, because personal testimony, that social proof is always so important. How did you get into holistic health?
Yeah, I got into it. I guess the crux of my story is had to do with competitive figure skating and seeing the power of nutrition on my performance. And then through that, I kind of just got obsessed with learning about nutrition and reading science and hearing again personal testimonies and trying things out, like kind of trial and error and seeing like, wow, this is amazing. And once I cleaned up my diet for other reasons, which were sport related, I didn't get sick as much. Funny enough. So yeah, that's kind of my personal testimony. And I have many stories of seeing the power of it, in my life in the past 10, 15 years. But yeah.
Well, that's great. And I know from my previous television production experience of getting to know the Blades hockey organization, the years that they had their best runs in standings and the highest number of players that went on to the professional level was when the team really buckled down on their diet and health. And, that was what the coaching staff and their nutritionists had told me. So I really appreciate your input and just talking about how your figure skating improved just by changing your diet. And we don't realize how much of a bedrock that good food is.
Yeah, 100%.
I really appreciate you being here, Josee. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
And for all of us here at Bridge City News, I'm Michael Clausen. Thank you for watching.